What's up YouTube, it's the one and only legend of winning, aka Low, and I am back again with another video. And in today's video is another episode of NBA Mythbusters. For the people out there who don't know what NBA Mythbusters is, it's where I take an idea or a concept that majority of NBA fans believe, put it to the test and see if it is true or not. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about super teams and what's the right and wrong way to build a super team. Now for the most part, everybody knows that super teams have been in the NBA practically since its existence. Dating all the way back in the 60s with Bill Russell and what they had going on with the Boston Celtics. We have Russell, Sam Jones, Bob Cousy in them, and then all the way to today's NBA where Kevin Durant joined the Golden State Warriors. However, there is this overwhelming understanding that what Kevin Durant did was wrong and what Bill Russell did was right for multiple reasons. And so this perpetuates into today's NBA that players in today's league, they want to play with one another and they're building the NBA super teams the wrong way, unlike players before them, because players before them, they built the super teams the correct way and they wanted to compete with one another and they didn't want to play on the same team with another great player because they wanted to beat the other players. But again, this is something that people claim only happens in today's NBA. But what if I told you that it didn't happen just in today's NBA? And what if I told you that players back in the day wanted to play with other great players because they wanted to win championships? And what if I told you that this is one of the biggest propaganda against today's NBA players that I've ever seen in my life? And what if I told you had two players that did this, one in the 80s and one in the 70s? So with that being said, let's get right into the video so I can bust this myth against today's NBA players. So the first super team that I'm going to talk about that was built, I would consider the quote-unquote wrong way, is the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers. This team was dominant, so dominant that Moses Malone knew before the playoffs even started that they were going to go foe, basically predicting that they were going to sweep everybody in the playoffs, which they practically did, only losing one game in the postseason, and that was to the Milwaukee Bucks, but eventually got to the NBA Finals and swept the Los Angeles Lakers. So how exactly was this super team formed, and why is it that nobody talks about this whatsoever? Well, first, let's see if this was indeed a super team. In the 1983 season, the Philadelphia 76ers had a record of 65-17, one of the best records in NBA history. They had a lineup that consisted of Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, Julius Erving, Moses Malone, and Bobby Jones coming off the bench, and some solid other pieces around them as well. This team had 4 All-Stars, Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, Julius Erving, and Moses Malone. They had 2 players that were in the first team All-NBA, Dr. J and Moses Malone, 3 players that were first team all defense, Mo Cheeks, Moses Malone, and Bobby Jones, the 6th man of the year, which was Bobby Jones, and the MVP, which is Moses Malone. So yeah, this team was dominant. This was a super team, and I think majority of people would believe that as well. So now let's figure out how exactly was this formed. Well, in the 82 offseason, Moses Malone was a restricted free agent. He got an offer from his initial team, which is the Houston Rockets, and he declined it. He went into the free agency, got a contract from the Philadelphia 76ers, but because he was a restricted free agent, the Houston Rockets still had the opportunity to pick him back up. He brought the contract back to the Houston Rockets. They declined it. However, they wanted to get something in return, so they did a sign and trade. So Moses Malone basically signed on with the Philadelphia 76ers. Not only that, Moses Malone was in his prime. He was 27 years old. And on top of that, Moses Malone joined a team that was already great. In 1982, the Philadelphia 76ers went to the NBA Finals. And on top of that, in 1981, Moses Malone was in the NBA Finals. So let's get a couple things straight for the broader picture before we go into any details. In 1981, the Philadelphia 76ers were in the playoffs. However, they didn't make it all the way to the finals because they got knocked out by the Boston Celtics. However, in 1981, Dr. J was the MVP of the league. Moses Malone was in the NBA Finals with the Houston Rockets. In 1982, like I just stated, the Philadelphia 76ers found themselves in the NBA Finals. However, the Moses Malone-led Houston Rockets, they made the playoffs, but they got knocked out. But Moses Malone in 1982 was the MVP. So you're telling me The last two players that won MVP are now on the same team in '83 when it comes to Philadelphia 76ers. The best players on the last two teams that just lost in the NBA Finals, they're now on the same team with the Philadelphia 76ers in '83. So how is this not a super team, and how is it that Moses Malone didn't get criticized? Now, some people may make the argument about age. Dr. J was 32 years old at the time, and some people may consider that old enough to be part of a super team. However, there's a few things that contradicts themselves. First and foremost, Dr. J didn't switch teams, Moses Malone switched team. When LeBron switched team to go down to Miami, people criticized him because they felt like LeBron was copping out. And people felt like LeBron should have been able to recruit help to come to Cleveland instead of him going to Miami.
Got help. LeBron went and said, I'm going to get help.
LeBron, it's not the same.
LeBron went and helped.
LeBron went to the, yeah, I mean,
LeBron went and helped. He didn't get help. He could have recruited people to Cleveland.
It just...
The second thing is, sure, Moses Malone and Dr. J, they weren't around the same age group. However, everybody else in that Philadelphia 76ers team, they were in their mid-20s. The only two players in the '83 76ers team that was in their 30s was Bobby Jones and Julius Erving. Everybody else was in their 20s. Also, let's get this straight as well. I have a hard time believing that 32 years of age is the cutoff date. I just don't understand that. So, Dr. J is 32 when Moses Malone comes on the team. LeBron James right now is 32. LeBron at this stage of his career compared to Dr. J at his stage of his career at 32, LeBron has played more games and LeBron has played more minutes. But nobody ever says anything about LeBron being too old, or nobody doesn't say anything about LeBron needing more help, actually needing an MVP type player on his team. LeBron asked for a backup point guard and everybody killed LeBron. So I'm confused why it's okay to criticize LeBron for a backup point guard, but Moses Malone joining Dr. J at the same age, that's acceptable. It just doesn't make any sense. Another thing that some people may speculate about this is that Moses Malone was just doing this to get more money. Now that may be partially true. Moses Malone, when he was getting the offer from the Houston Rockets, was only getting paid roughly around $1.7 million a year for 6 years. But when he went to Philly, he got a contract that was $2.2 million for 6 years. So technically speaking, he did get more money going to the Philadelphia 76ers. However, he practically could have went to any team in the NBA and received a bigger contract because obviously he was the MVP of the last year and there was multiple teams that wanted him. Not only that, why did he specifically go to the Philadelphia 76ers? Well, there are multiple newspaper articles claiming that he preferred to play in Philly over Houston. Not only that, he went into further details about when he joined the Philadelphia 76ers, he was willing to give up his dominant role that he had in Houston and let Doc still be Doc. It was still going to be Dr. J's team, it was going to be the Doc show, and I was only going to make it a little bit better. I'm literally going to put that quote up on the screen just in case you believe that I'm just talking out my butt right now. But he said that. So again, it was extremely clear what Moses Malone was doing. Sure, he might have wanted more money, who doesn't? But it was obvious that he wanted to join a team where best suited him and his chance of winning a championship. And finally, some people may question if this team was dominant the season before. It was a pretty dominant team. So like I said before, this was a team that actually made it to the NBA Finals in the '82 season. Mo Cheeks the season before was top 3 in the NBA in steals and assists. Dr. J was averaging 24.4 points, 6.9 rebounds, 4 assists. Bobby Jones was an all-star last year, and on top of that, he was an all-defensive team, which he practically was throughout his entire career. And Andrew Toney was coming off the bench, nearly averaging 17 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, in less than 25 minutes. The only reason why he didn't win 6th Man of the Year that season is because the award didn't exist that year. So again, this was a dominant team. Moses Malone, in his prime, decided to go to the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that just lost in the NBA Finals. So how is that not forming a super team? I just don't get it. But even if you don't believe me on that right there, I have another player that formed a super team. Now this next player is Earl Monroe. Now have you ever asked yourself, how did Earl Monroe get on the New York Knicks? Now when it comes to Moses Malone, some people may still question what I was talking about, they may sit there and say, hey, Lo, man, you're still missing a point, man. Kevin Durant joined a team that he lost to in the playoffs. They were rivals. He was supposed to beat them, not join them. What sense does that make? Come on, Lo, you were reading in between the lines about Moses Malone quotes. Come on, Lo, man. Moses Malone was short. He was in his 20s, but Dr. J, he was 32, man. Come on, man. Chill out, man. You can't do that. They never did what Kevin Durant did back in the day, man. They wanted to compete. They really wanted to compete. Well, let's talk about Earl Monroe real quick, and you tell me if Earl Monroe wanted to compete, because Earl Monroe finished his career top 50 player of all time, Hall of Famer, got his championship ring. Earl Monroe entered the NBA in the 1967 NBA draft, won the Rookie of the Year at the age of 23 for the Baltimore Bullets. His rookie season, he averaged 24 points, 5 to 6 rebounds, 4 assists. First 4 years in the NBA, played for the Baltimore Bullets, 2-time All-Star, 1 Rookie of the Year. His first year in the NBA, they really weren't that good. So in the second year in his NBA career, the Baltimore Bullets had a lottery pick and they decided to go with Wes Unseld. Wes Unseld, phenomenal player, one of the greatest players of all time. Wes Unseld was so dominant that he received the Rookie of the Year and the MVP the same season. Before Derrick Rose, Wes Unseld was the youngest MVP in NBA history. But again, so dominant that he won the MVP in his rookie season. So 4 years into Earl Monroe's career, they find themselves in the NBA Finals. They go up against the Milwaukee Bucks led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson in the 1971 NBA Finals. Unfortunately though, they lose. I think we all know Kareem won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's unfortunate, but like we already stated, Earl Monroe 4 years into his career, Wes Unseld 3 years into his career. This is a team that has a dynamic duo that you would all believe that they're going to dominate within the next 10 years, especially if they made the NBA Finals 3 to 4 years into their careers. Earl Monroe wants to get traded. Now, Earl Monroe wants to get traded for other reasons. He gets traded because the organization wasn't compensating him correctly financially. So, Earl Monroe gets finessed. He wants to leave the Baltimore Bullets. He tells the Baltimore Bullets in the 1972 season, I'm not playing no games for you all. I'm gonna sit out until you all trade me. And on top of that, I got 4 teams I want to be traded to. I want to be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, the Chicago Bulls, the Los Angeles Lakers, or the New York Knicks. If you don't believe me, I'll let Earl Monroe himself tell you.
In the NBA, and I had given them ultimatums of trading me to either Philadelphia, which was home, LA, which I wanted to get, Chicago, or New York was my last alternative.
He didn't know he wasn't leaving, but he didn't play with Hall of Famers in their prime. When he went to Phoenix.
We're talking about people. If we're talking about we're talking about people that play with Hall of Famers.
It was like 7 teams trying to get me when I left Philly. I never said I want to go. I says I just need some help. I never said no. I want to go to Chicago or LA.
Of trading me to either Philadelphia, which was home, LA, which I wanted to get, Chicago, or New York was my last alternative.
Accidental or coincidental super teams. I don't like, super teams that are forced. When you're in the prime of your career, you can't say, hey, even though I went to Lakers, I want to go play with C-Webb. You can't do that.
And with
wrong. We didn't do it. The guys before us didn't do it.
And with
wrong. We didn't do it. The guys before us didn't do it.
And with
wrong. We didn't do it. The guys before us didn't do it.
Of trading me to either Philadelphia, which was home, LA, which I wanted to get, Chicago, or New York was my last alternative.
So, let's break down those teams real quick. The Philadelphia 76ers, that was his hometown. I'll give him a pass on that. Chicago Bulls, this is in the 70s, so this is before the Michael Jordan era. They were winning 50 plus games, 55 plus games actually, before the 72 season. They were making the playoffs. It looks like Earl Monroe wants to build a super team. But hey, even if you don't want to say that, what about the Los Angeles Lakers? The Los Angeles Lakers in the 72 season, just in case you need a little freshening up on your history, they had Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, and Wilt Chamberlain, one of the original super teams. He wanted to join that super team. Wait a minute, Lo. Those players were old. Just like Dr. J, those players was old. Moses Malone just wanted to help out Dr. J win a championship, so he's fine. And then you have Earl Monroe, he just wanted to help out Wilt Chamberlain and them win their championship, so it's all fine. But he didn't get traded to that team, even though that obviously was already a super team and he wanted to play on a super team. But okay, cool. They were old. What about the New York Knicks? Because that is the team that he got traded to. The New York Knicks, within the past 3 seasons, won a championship. Willis Reed, who was a star player, won an MVP, and they had Clyde Frazier on the team. So why would he want to join that team? But here's what makes it worse. Everybody talking about, oh, KD, man, why would he want to leave OKC to go join the rival? Why would he want to join that team? He's supposed to beat that team, not join that team. The New York Knicks and the Baltimore Bullets, they were rivals, bitter rivals. And if you don't want to believe me, because apparently it didn't happen back in the day, if you don't want to believe me, I'll let Earl Monroe explain it himself again.
Never thought I'd come to New York because we had been such bitter enemies, rivals during the 4 years that I was in Baltimore that it just didn't seem possible. And then when it did come up, I was very apprehensive because I felt as though, I came to a championship team, whereas Baltimore was on the bottom. We remained on the bottom for a year, and then but New York was already on top, and it was a matter of me being able to fit in.
At the beginning of the career, the middle of the career, when I'm trying
You wanted to
beat
beat his
him,
head in.
Exactly.
You wanted to go against the best. Okay,
first.
that's the point.
What's the difference?
These guys are in their prime, teaming up, and I wanted to beat Michael Jordan. I don't want to team with them. I don't care the beginning, middle, or end.
We
didn't do it. The guys before us didn't do it.
So Earl Monroe, already on a great team, makes the NBA Finals, but I get it. He has to be compensated correctly because they were finessing him out of his money. I get it. So now you want to go to another organization. You're basically telling them, I'm not playing until you trade me. And then you give them a list of teams that you want to join. One of the teams on the doggone list is your rival team. The team that you're supposed to beat. Why would he want to be on that team? Here's what makes it even worse. People criticize LeBron teaming up with Dwayne Wade because they had similar playing styles. They both like to handle the ball.
Cleveland?
No. He's not going to come to
Really?
Cleveland. No, he's not coming.
Come on. He could have got Bosh to go to Cleveland.
Let me pose this
He couldn't
question.
get anybody there in 7 years.
Jenny,
Come on, man.
in this era, though, if you're LeBron and D. Wade, don't you agree that it's similar type of players?
Yes.
You would have never done it.
Exactly.
Not in the same position.
Big.
Clyde Frazier handled the ball. Earl Monroe also handled the ball. Why would he want to join that team? That team just won a championship. Does he not want to compete? That team has an MVP. What's going on? They don't want to compete? Earl Monroe at the time was 27. Willis Reed was in his 20s. Clyde Frazier was in his 20s. And on top of that, they had veteran leadership with Dave DeBusschere and Jerry Lucas. So this team was stacked. Side note, he also had Phil Jackson as well. But I thought that this didn't happen back in the day. I thought that players back in the day, they wanted to beat each other. They didn't want to join each other. I thought that was something that was only going on in today's NBA.
And a lot of guys in our era, really agree with that. However, our era really never had the opportunity of free agency the way it is set up today. So I would wonder when Magic Johnson would have got on that call and been like, hey, David, come on out of San Antonio, man, and come on up. Like, those calls never happened. So Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, Larry Bird had great influence. And if those guys got on the phone, I don't know what guys would
Listen, I guarantee you.
Those calls never happened because the guys before them competed.
No, because there was no
competed.
free agency to allow it to even happen.
Guys have always been
matter.
free
Move
agents.
like the way you can move.
I guarantee you, I'm going to speak for Isaiah Thomas, and I should.
Doesn't matter.
Isaiah Thomas got through the Boston Celtics. He didn't call Michael Jordan or Larry Bird and say, hey, let me play with y'all. The best.
I'm not saying that I don't understand, but those calls never came, so it's hard to
guys
say.
Wanted to compete.
Guys wanted to compete.
Fortunately, if I was in Baltimore and had the same career as I had as a New York Knickerbocker, it might not have been the same because the media would not have been able to pick up on it as much. But by being a champion out there, it's a champion not only, on the court, but in your mind and in your heart, because because you're out there, you know that what's happening, you're a part of it all. And it's good to win championships, but it's also good to be a person and to know who you are and where you're going. And that's something that championships never give you.